And it's actually a job that is half done for us, given that the opening speakers have laid out the context pretty well, and we need not uh, rediscover the context through the course of our conversation. It will be nice to dig deeper. Um, One of the things that the gentleman from IFPI mentioned caught my eye, and I did a quick back of the hand calculation on the size of the music market in India, if you look at it in per capita terms. And India is really a market which is at $0.12 per capita, whereas the US stands at somewhere close to $18.75 per capita. And that puts India at parity with countries like Venezuela, just a little above countries like Indonesia. And I think we can punch uh, much above our weight currently if we are to organize around this principle of discovering fair value in the music market. I actually was having a conversation about whether you should look at per capita as a metric with a friend of mine just before this conversation started, before this event, because obviously there are contrary trends. You have people picking up money on the basis of the number of users that they have, and if you price your offering competitively or cheaply, then you can perhaps monetize elsewhere in terms of having a larger market capitalization based on the number of users, and that tends to be the model of sort of making money in India today as far as the digital market is concerned. But where I would differ from that in the case of music is that we really need to start thinking about music not as a commodity, because it is intellectual property. And as soon as we start commoditizing intellectual property, we will have problems in discovering the value along the supply chain and distributing that fairly. The other top level trend that I'd just like to place on the table for your reference is that Indians today spend about 22 hours a week listening to music compared to the global average of around 18 hours per week, which means that the competition for listening hours is certainly going to be a challenge in ensuring quality music while maintaining value for stakeholders along the supply chain. And the third is that in terms of the subscription market, and this is always, you know, a point of contention as far as the content industries are concerned. India accounts for only 1% of the global subscription market for music, which is about 200 million subscribers, paid subscribers. India accounts for about 2 million. So given that we have these challenges to contend with, and Megha, since you didn't give anyone the chance to ask your question, I would like to open the floor with you, open this panel with you, rather. And it's quite evident from some of these statistics that the Indian music market has to find somewhat of a golden median between increasing revenues per capita and also enhancing the quality of content per capita, if I can term it that. So in that context, why is market-based licensing important?
Thank you. Thank you, Vivan. Thank you, Vivan, for the question. So you're absolutely right that in some sense, we should not be looking at per capita terms necessarily, right? So if we want to compare to other countries, then France considers intellectual property and artists' right, like a right that cannot be taken away from the artist. So when we compare to other countries, we shouldn't just compare monetarily, we should also compare in terms of how they view intellectual property and the value that they give it in society. In terms of the balance that you talked about, that's very important, right? Because in one sense, we do want music to earn money, but at the same time, we want that even music, so the intellectual property part of it is that we do want that new kinds of music or traditional kinds of music, which may not be the most popular at this point of time in history, are also preserved. So there is that balance that has to be struck, and that has to include a lot of thinking about how one has to do it, but it definitely needs some amount of balance.
Mr. Kakkar, if I can turn to you, taking from that theme, public performances are going to be a great way to preserve that sort of value. And what you've seen remarkably over the last financial year was a quite a significant jump of 25% in terms of public performance revenues of PPL. So can you just explain what the reasons for this growth are and how you can juxtapose it against the commodification of intellectual property?
Okay, so I'll go back to what Vikram said at the beginning of the presentation. It was, we did all the things that a professional organization should be doing to make sure we pull our own weight and get the revenues that truly belong to us. I think it started off by making sure that we were representative of the record labels in the country. And I'm happy to report we had a huge surge in membership. We represent today almost 97% of all recorded labels in the country, which gives us a great representation by which we can go and collect their fair share from the users of that content. That was one big one. The second was that we actually truly took upon the government's agenda of ease of doing business, and we actually made the process of getting a public performance license really simple. We today have a digital platform called Plus, which actually you can get a public performance license within a matter of minutes, which used to be days earlier. And therefore, that has again given public performance a better platform to operate on. People are aware of what we are doing. Though that work is still much, much more, but we still have made the journey. The third thing was in terms of transparency. There were always things about whether PPL is transparent enough, whether record labels are transparent enough, and I think we began this journey also, and we're happy to report that we've been audited both by Pricewaterhouse as well as Ernst & Young, and they've reported that everything is above board and everything is running smoothly. All these things have given us a confidence, that all these things have given users a confidence, and today we are actually engaging with users, talking to them about whether the tariff is right for them. Is it like, should we have a one-size-fits-all kind of a tariff? India is a multi-pluralistic country, big cities, small cities, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Similarly, stores are all kinds, all sizes, hotels, events, everything is differing by language, by state, and therefore we've engaged with the users to see how we can make performance licenses also something that are tailor-made to these people. So I think we've begun the journey. There's lots more to be done, but I think there is a positive buzz that we want to create and educate people the fact that a public performance license is necessary for them to enjoy the works that have been invested by various people along the way. So I think all this is a culmination of what we did, but lots more to be done.
Mr. Raina, if I can turn to you, if you could you share a little bit about your business, Believe Digital, particularly in the context of the fact that the global recorded music industry reached its peak in terms of revenues in 1999. This is pre the Napster era. And we all know what happened then. A large amount of value was eroded over the early 2000s, and we're starting to see some of that come back online. Companies like yours are traversing the digital sphere and all aspects of it. But if you can explain how your company is helping the recorded music industry reach back towards its peak, we would all be better off for it.
See, fundamentally, a company like Believe will have a large technology behind the business, which means that there are thousands of labels around the world, and in India for that matter, and a lot of artists which are upcoming or established artists. They need three fundamental things. One is the technology, because we're living in an OTT space where the pace of content release, the pace of it needs to go live in the stores, the marketing around it, it's super fast. And if you really want to scale that business, you need a very strong tech behind it, which we have. Second is a finance support. Today, as I think Vikram mentioned about the cost of content when you're acquiring it from film music, and there's a cost which an independent artist would actually incur in creating the audio, video, marketing as well. And if we need to be part of the industry, we need to support that kind of a creative people, be it labels or be it an artist. So we do that as well, which is a win-win situation for both the parties. And third is to make...
Can I just interject there and understand from you a little better how your financing works in terms of what level of tailor-made services are you offering in the financial space that differ from say, banks or traditional institutions?
Yeah, well, people call us that we're as good as banks, but we're not. Um, yeah, well, good as long as it's a win-win for both the parties. But the way it works is basically looking at the strategy of an artist or a label. What do they have? How can we work together to make a revenue for next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, basis our understanding of the local and the global market. So we work out some financial plan. I wouldn't say it's a bank because ultimately that whatever happens that I need to make 8, 9, 10% of as a interest because we don't work that. But investing in a partner only because we see that if we work together and I provide certain facilities or support to that partner, we will grow and they will grow as well. And it is very important from an industry point of view as well that not everybody has the support to grow to the next level. I mean, today, if you see in the last, and we've been operating in India for the last 6 years now, and the focus was always the regional market, which means the regional labels and the regional artist. And today, it's kind of very nice to see that even regional labels have super ambitions to go to the next level. They're not restricting themselves to a small Bhojpuri market or an Assamese market. They really want to become the pan-India label. Now, finance plays that role. I'm not getting the details of how much we pay them, but it's serious amount of money. And I know we're not talking about the $50,000, $100,000. I think cumulatively, if I see, we invested significant amount of money in the market, and we continue to do that, except there are a few challenges we'll talk about in the second phase.
Thank you. You've given me a very good segue to the final speaker on your panel. Mr. Lahiri is from Asha Audio, and Asha Audio, I believe, sir, has been doing a lot of work in regional music production. You're a label that is vernacular in all its characteristics. And of course, a lot of the OTT players today or the streaming services are reporting that a large amount of consumption is actually in vernacular languages.
Yeah.
For example, YouTube reports that over 97% of content uploads from India are vernacular, and over 90% of the consumption is in vernacular languages. So it all seems pretty rosy from the consumption and upload metrics, but what are the challenges that you face in monetization of vernacular content?
1995, I started my company. That time we used to spend, say, 100 rupees, we used to get 1,000 rupees back. Today the problem is actually if we pay 100 rupees for the recordings and all that, we get 30 rupees or 40 rupees back. The thing is actually earlier the FM station used to pay us 650 rupees per hour. For 13 songs they used to play 50 rupees per song they used to pay us. Today they are paying us hardly 2%. They are playing our songs, correct? So they should pay what money we are asking for. The copyright board should not dictate the terms, according to me. Everywhere you see, even the television also, ZTV or Star Jalsa, they are playing a lot of songs of ours. They are supposed to pay us some money. They are not paying us. They are not bothered also because it's a regional company. Because they know the regional company cannot go to the Supreme Court and all that, file a case. That is the reason we are suffering lots. Whatever money we are spending it, we are getting it from other business. I'm having some other business. From there I have to bring some money in this business and put the money for new recordings and all that.
So you're cross-subsidizing.
3 days back only I have recorded one Kumar Sanu song. I have spent 3.5 lakhs rupees. I don't know that I'll be getting back 50,000 rupees back or not.
So what is your vision for the regional market?
My vision is
given that
actually
you're
regional market
cross-subsidizing?
will definitely give me money back. But that will take some time. Now we all are fighting together. The day will come that definitely people will listen our word. Like 104 crores he has collected this year. Earlier there was some problems in the associations. Now the problem is sorted out. Now 1.5 years the association is running very smoothly. Earlier you never used to get a chance to come and sit here. Today we are getting a chance to come and sit here. So when you are involving the regional companies, I'm sure that they also will get some ideas, we also will get some ideas. Even the Eastern region, when you are going, we are talking to the people or IPRS people, we are getting very good response from them. We are also supporting them to collect the money from wherever the concert is there or some other programs are there. Now the problem, one small problem has come that marriage parties and all that, we used to collect some good amount of money. That problem is, I think we have to go to the court or something like that. to make sure that whatever money we are getting it, we must get it.
So this, Megha, if I can turn your attention to this problem, because essentially it is going back to the commodification of what is actually a private property, and in the form of intellectual property. And we've kind of started treating intellectual property and content as some sort of an essential good or service. That everyone must have a God-ordained right to access every piece of content that is produced in the country. Now, in terms of economic first principles, how far off is this from an ideal situation?
So it's hard to say, right? Because in 2010 we decided to protect everything because the radio industry was nascent. Today, if we move to voluntary licensing, it still remains the problem that some people are going to be able to negotiate less hard, right, compared to others because because of what content is popular, right? And if we want to promote, regional music, or if we want to bring fair value to Mr. Lahiri and others, it has to be that we directly promote it. So not through cutting the revenue of somebody else. So not at the cost of, so not radio at the cost of music or music at the cost of somebody else. You want to subsidize, you want to promote artists.
So are you saying the
I'm saying
role for
promote
a public broadcaster there?
I'm saying promote artists directly if you want to promote artists. If you want to promote radio directly. Don't say that let music be suffering because radio paid a lot in the bids. That doesn't make any sense. So similarly, if you want to promote small players, right, then you don't have to promote everybody. And you don't have to do it through changing the licensing on one thing. You can directly say that, okay, let's have artists having, sort of networks. So what Mr. Gaina is doing is brilliant, right? Because you're connecting, the producers to the consumers and so on and so forth, and you can promote those. So if you want to say something.
FM station, private FM station, 1 10-second spot, they sell it 1,200, some prime times and all that, they sell even 1,500 rupees. So when they are selling 10-second spot, 1,200 or 1,500 rupees, they are earning, say, small station, they are earning nothing less than 30-40 crores in a year. They are paying huge salary to their employees. 95% or 95, this thing like 95% they are earning. Their earning is very high in that case. But in that case, they are paying us only 2% on net revenue, which should be at least 50-50 according to me.
Mr. Kakkar, there's another dimension to this problem, isn't there? That today, a collective management entity such as yours is only able to tap into some 5-6% of the catchment of the kind of licensees in terms of shops and establishments, for instance, that you would have. So yours is very much, and we've talked about this before, yours is a problem that is very much akin to the kind of problem our tax administration faces, right? That you have to kind of broaden the tax base to be able to bump up the tax to GDP ratio instead of targeting those at the very top, which is a realization we keep having every 10 years. It's a cyclical realization that we have in India. So, if, for a collective management agency like yours, how do you broaden the base? Is it necessarily through consolidation with other entities that might be doing the same thing? Is it by price differentiation and being more nuanced about it or simplifying it? What are the cure-alls for this problem?
Okay, so I'll go back to the fact that everybody thinks music is free, and I think we are kind of, everybody, thinks it's his birthright to use music wherever they want without paying for it. And it doesn't help that this is propagated by low rates on radio, propagated by, mandates coming in to not charge for this or not charge for that. I think the market is huge. The market is willing to pay. The market is, paying for other services that go alongside music. So why shouldn't they be paying for music? So therefore, the potential is huge. We are only tapping 5% for a variety of reasons. Number one, of course, it's a very feet on street. We need to get a digital transformation into place, which we've begun the journey where a person sitting in the smallest of towns should be able to take a license and be able to pay for the content. He knows somebody has put his heart and soul, somebody has spent money on it, and he needs to pay for it. I think that realization will come as long as we make it easier to get a license, and that journey we've begun. I think the second very important part is where the government needs to come in. I think the government needs to have a dialogue with us and other stakeholders on a regular basis. I think all across the globe, and IFPI sitting over here can tell you how PPLs of the world in UK, there is a counterpart, PPL UK, works with the government in terms of tariff setting, in terms of making sure that they are hearing both the users as well as the record labels and saying what is the right tariff setting for public performance, rather than saying you need to give concessions. You actually hear them out, and they meet every year to kind of see how these tariffs need to change. So I think we need to engage far more frequently, present data cases, present data points to actually take a decision which is in the best interest of everybody. There is, of course, a role the government, another wing that needs to play is the enforcement part, where both judiciary and police need to be sensitized that intellectual property is in a way similar to what property is. And this is something when I meet with other people in other societies, they say in common law countries, which is really commonwealth countries like we are, property is property. If somebody were trespassing on your property, the rights that you would enforce are the same for the music business also, and therefore I think we need to sensitize, and again we need to work with different arms of the government over here to make sure that we are protected. Everybody today, why are we not getting nightclubs, and I'm just taking an example over here, are the biggest violators of not taking licenses, because we are anyway paying the police and we're paying why should we take? 95% of their business is coming because they're playing music, and we need enforcement, we need help from the government over there. It's not that we need only help, we will go and put feet on street, but we need people to sort of help enforce this. And finally, I think from our side also, we need to make tariffs which are all inclusive. We are happy to embark on that journey to make sure that tariffs are not one size fits all. Tariffs are something that are, tailor made, or there are cases for people getting lower or higher. So I think the ecosystem needs to work together and not just give one an exception at the cost of the other. We all need to work together on a regular basis, meet regularly, make sure that we are keeping abreast of global standards, and there's enough firepower sitting around this room also, which tells you how this happens in the rest of the world. We just need to take the best leaf out of that.
Everyone needs to evolve, and I guess so do the music labels, and I think Believe Digital is doing fair service to the labels by helping them along that path. Mr. Raina, if I can ask you, the old recording labels, the 100-year-old, 50-year-old global labels are having to reinvent themselves. And there's a whole new crop of labels, distribution services that have come ostensibly to try to disintermediate the old labels. What the old labels were very good at doing was, as we've discussed earlier, curation, marketing, and really taking that individual artist, band, and creating a brand out of the individual and the intellectual property created by them. What the new guys are trying to do is basically work a lot with the so-called gig economy style of production, which is fragmented, disaggregated, specialized, but they don't necessarily engage too much in the business of brand building. Do you see that in the future, in the next 10 or 20 years, somewhere the twain will have to meet and one will have to become the other? And what is the role of companies like yours in helping both the old world and the new world see that their paths have to inevitably converge?
Well, 10, 20 years is, I think, too far to say that, but let's look at next 5 years, the way I see it, is that, and I'll just go back, let's say, 10 years back, specific to India, is that when we had this early stages of digital music, like from a ringtone to ringback tones and stuff like that, that time also you had music labels doing what they great at doing, but you had the distributor side of the business as well, because they were more technological driven, the way they would manage the local marketing and promotions. It went on for some time, and it eventually died out because labels understood how it's to be done, which is great. Now we're in a stage which is little heavy on technology. We're talking about the OTT, video streaming and stuff like that. What's going to be important is that as the PPL and IPRS and everything evolves, if you look at the data, on the streaming data, it's huge. You need like a millions, trillions, lines by line reporting, which not every label would be able to do because it's a huge technology investment, right? Now, to make sure that every label actually gets the same level of technology spend, that's what we're trying to do it. It's going to continue. I mean, definitely a lot of labels would invest in technology, and they're already doing it. But I doubt in next 5 to 6 years, every label will be able to invest that heavy on that. So there is specialized services which a label is doing currently. There are specialized services which distributor like us, and we are not a label technically. We don't call ourselves labels. We're a partner to a label, which we are doing. And there are services which you would call do-it-yourself, like a CD Baby or a TuneCore. They're again very specialized services, right? And the market is large enough to cater to every kind of an partner, be a established label, new label, established artist, or a small artist. Just to give an example, it's a TuneCore, is a do-it-yourself service. Generally, people will say, all right, if you're a new artist, like a fresh artist, he wants to test his digital presence, he will pay a subscription fee to TuneCore and distribute the music. But in a lot of countries, and even in India, a lot of established artists, which make serious amount of money just going through TuneCore, because they know their fan base, they don't need money, they know how to promote it on their own, they're doing it, right? So it's a cusp of where we are, labels are moving towards building the technology because it's a need, and distributors kind of helping the smaller section of labels to go to the next level. But 10 years, I think it's too soon to say that.
Just 30 more seconds on this theme of servicing the music value chain. India, of course, believes that it has a competitive edge in services, and it will continue to have one, especially in tech-oriented services. What does music tech look like today from your vantage point in India? Are we ready to service global value chains of music? Are we getting there? I know you're owned by a French company. You're a subsidiary of a French company.
Yes, I'm as a group, yes, I'm the same company.
So where is India's music tech?
Well, I think, to be very honestly, I think India has not even reached there, to be very honestly. I think, but there are reasons for that. I think there are challenges. Let's say for us, we've been here for the last 6 years, we invest in stuff, but we've been quietly looking at the market, how it's growing, and both from an artist point of view, from a label point of view, OTT point of view. But there are challenges which we see, and I think a lot of people talked about that, is that for us to go further down the road, in terms of either a part of an acquisitions or investing more money and taking the technology back in India, I think there are issues which fundamentally we're talking about, and that will define the future for industry is, when do we go to the subscription model? That's, if I just compare to China, it was pretty much like, in fact, worse than India in terms of piracy and everything. I think it's moved ahead pretty fast, because everybody in the ecosystem helped each other to reach there. We're not there. We are being, there are certain people in the ecosystem which are not understanding the value which a music label or a distributor or an artist brings on the table, right? So I think once that few issues are being sorted, everybody has a fair value, I think you will see a serious amount of investment, not from me from Believe, but I think even the local music labels in the market.
Mr. Larry, if I can come to you last, but not the least. One aspect of it is domestic subscriptions and unfettering value within the Indian market. But as we've spoken of today, music travels. It's part of India's soft power. You have a lot of Indian music consumption wherever the diaspora is, but also in countries where there might be limited diaspora and just general organic uptake for Indian music and Indian culture. Bangladesh is one such country, but your revenues there are throttled. Can you
Bangladesh,
speak more to the
copyright
South
exist.
Asian market?
Yes.
The other aspect of competitiveness or developing some sort of a comparative advantage in music for India would be how it can leverage state support. After all, countries like South Korea and the way K-pop has traveled hasn't been completely organic. It's been well thought out of well thought of strategy between the Korean state and the private enterprises and the creators. So what must India do to travel that path as well? And we know that there is a specific issue in Bangladesh that is throttling your revenues, but
I go to
broadly to this issue.
Yes, when I go to Bangladesh, I find that my songs are available there, but maybe in some logo is changed. Everything is all same. Even the cover also same. Only the logo they change. They only show us that this is my album. But in the song I am doing it and they are just showing it like that. You cannot take any action also. You cannot tell them also to stop it.
So yesterday,
So Bangladesh, that copyright, this thing is, it should come, the copyright should come, and they can take us license. That's not a problem. They can take license from us and they can do it.
just
Even
to
that
be-
mobile companies also, they are using our content.
to be
Mobile
clear, there's an
company-
import
yes.
restriction in Bangladesh on vernacular South Asian vernacular content, and that's why you're not allowed to be legally imported into the country.
Sir, Bangladesh, Sharunda magazine, that's a Bengali magazine, that's going there. Legally that is going there. 28,000 copies is going every month. Why the problem is, I'm telling you very frankly, not Bangladesh I'm talking about. This publishing house, they hold the rights of all these FM stations, maximum, you see. Times of India is there, HT is there, 3TV is there, everyone. The publishing, that newspaper circulation is going down like anything. After 2 years, you will find that newspapers is printing every, maybe Saturday, Sunday, not other days. So these publishing house people, they are lobbying with the central government and taking all these rights from our, this thing, and paying us hardly peanuts. And after that, obviously, you want to go to the courts and all that, you cannot go because we are the small people. That's a big problem. If you go to any Radio Mirchi or all that, Radio Mirchi, what is the income? Huge income. They pay salaries of 2 lakhs rupees to their branch manager. Although they are not paying us 2 lakhs rupees in a year.
Thank you. I think these are genuine
I
grievances.
don't take it otherwise, but the thing is actually, we have to earn from somewhere else, put it in this music industry because we love music, nothing else.
No, a lot of businesses are cross-subsidized like that out of love in India, and I think it's
my
time for
problem
that
is
to be-
actually, I'm not working anywhere. I'm doing my own business. That is my big problem. I have to get the money from other sources.
No, and that's the crux of the fair value
And
issue.
whatever album we are doing it, artists are going and doing live shows and all that. They are earning lots.
So if we can throw it open to the audience for a round of questions in case anyone has any, please direct your questions to a specific member of the panel. Make sure it is indeed a question and not a comment. If anyone in the audience wants to raise a question, please go ahead. And if not, we can move swiftly on to the next speaker, and I think we're running late as it is. So does anyone have anything to ask? That's a job well done. I think everyone is fairly clear on the agenda. And there are aspects of behavioral change involved in terms of how you move Indians to go from free to subscription. There are aspects of legislative and statutory changes that are required to revisit assumptions from 10 years ago. And also there are aspects related to how we deal with the future together, how businesses evolve, how the executive, legislature and judiciary together with the private sector look at the future as an opportunity and how we can unlock the maximum value from it for stakeholders such as Mr. Lahiri and others. Thank you, everybody.